Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for our webinar in the MLitt Gothic Imagination. My name is Lucy Welch. I may have spoken with some of you by email or phone. I work in the Student Inquiries team. So as an attendee for today's webinar, your mic and videos have been disabled. So you'll need to use the chat function to interact if you want to get our attention. So please do let us know if you're having any issues. There will be an opportunity for you to ask some questions after Professor Jones and Dr. Edwards have finished outlining the programme for us in today's webinar. And you can put those questions in the Q&A section, but we will be keeping an eye on the chat section throughout the session as well. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can go to, in the top right, the Q&A green bit. And you can submit questions throughout that section during the webinar. However, we would ask that you try and we will accommodate questions at the end, so if you can try and keep them all until the end, that would be great. But you can upvote questions that have already been asked that you would like answered, as that shows there. So you can upvote a question if somebody else has asked it that you'd like to see it answered. One other thing to mention is that if you go to the handouts section that's next to QA, we do have a FAQs document there that you can refer to. So if there's a few questions being asked, some of them may already be in that document. So without further ado, I will hand over to our presenters. Thank you.
Oh, hello there. That's working all right, is it?
I think so. Yeah, my name is Justin Edwards.
I'm Tim Jones.
And we run the MLitt in the Gothic Imagination at the University of Stirling. And we're here to talk a little bit about the overview of the course, to give you a sense of what you would be studying, were you to choose to come and study with us. We'll talk a little bit about the core modules that you'll be doing, a little bit about the reading lists. We'll talk a little bit about the option modules as well. And we'll give you a sense of the dissertation and what kinds of dissertations have been done in the past, and the topics that you might like to choose or explore, generally speaking, throughout the Gothic Imagination course.
Absolutely. So we'll sort of talk about the structure of the program first. The course is structured around 4 core modules, and there's the opportunity to take up 2 optional modules in addition to those from a selection of at least 4. And in addition to those modules, there's the dissertation, which becomes the sort of final capstone project on the MLitt over the course of the summer term. So the 4 core modules are designed to introduce Gothic studies and introduce sort of crucial elements of Gothic studies. The modules, the first one is entitled Gothic Studies, which provides an overview of sort of criticism of the Gothic and its development over the last 30 or odd years or thereabouts. The follow-up module from that introduces theoretical dimensions of the Gothic. Following that, there's a module which explores modernity and the Gothic, particularly issues that have arisen in the 20th century in relationship to the genre. And the last of the core modules is is exploring sort of new directions in Gothic studies, sort of where to from here. So the idea is to ground students thoroughly in the genre and the discourses which surround it, and also to sort of look at what more can be said, what's new, what's happening now. In addition to that, we've got a selection of optional modules. Those change from year to year. This year we've had optional modules which have looked at the Scottish Gothic, gender in the Gothic, Gothic film, and a special module on sort of occultism in the Gothic, particularly in the Victorian milieu. So there's the opportunity to look either quite sort of widely at themes and forms like film, issues such as gender, or undertake sort of far more sort of specific studies there. And of course there's the dissertation over the summer as well.
There is. Before we get to that, just want to follow up on what you're saying there, Tim, and say that, yeah, we have a new option module, which we're going to be running starting in September, on children's literature in Gothic, which we're quite excited about. It's based on the research of one of our colleagues named Elizabeth Ezra, who's a professor of literature and culture. All of us who are teaching on this degree scheme are active researchers in Gothic. Myself, I teach on various modules on this degree scheme, and my research interests really lie in American Gothic, but also Canadian Gothic and post-colonial Gothic to a certain extent. And I've published some things on Gothic and contemporary popular culture, and most recently on tropical Gothic. Yeah, you would be taught by experts in the field who were actively researching and actively publishing in the area of Gothic studies, as well as teaching in that area, of course.
Terrific. Additionally to that, one of the nice things about the Gothic Imagination course is that it's a well-established course. In 2018, we're celebrating its 30th year. In fact, it's the first and remains one of the only sort of specialised degrees in the Gothic, as I'm sure you're aware. But over the course of those 30 years, there have been some really nice sort of connections between the field of Gothic studies more widely and the course itself have developed. Those might be elements such as the Gothic Imagination blog, which you might have had a chance to look at if you've gone this far and you're joining us for the seminar. But also there are sort of strong networks between the teaching staff and sort of Gothic scholarship more widely.
The structure of the course, which Tim outlined in terms of the core modules and also the option modules, you should note that the teaching is done in really small groups. So you would be in a group of maybe between 5 and 10, or certainly no more than 15. I think 15 is the highest that we've ever run a seminar. And usually it's between about 5 and 10. And those seminars really give you an opportunity to engage with the text that we're discussing, that we're talking about. They give you an opportunity to really hear the kind of critical views of the lecturer or the professor who's running the seminar. And you also have an opportunity to really engage with each other. And exchange ideas and debate about the text and the criticism that you're going to be reading throughout the MLitt and the Gothic Imagination. So one of the unique aspects of this degree is the ways in which you do interact in a small group, and you really have an opportunity to interact with each other and also with staff who are researching in the field. We mentioned the dissertation, and the dissertation is really the kind of thing that caps off the degree. So after you've done the core modules in semester 1 and the option modules, as well as the semester 2 core modules and option modules, you then move into the summer period, and you then write a 15,000 word dissertation. And the dissertation is really something that you really want to write about. So you choose an area of Gothic. It might be Gothic literature, it might be Gothic film, it might be some aspect of Gothic culture. And you work with a supervisor to develop a topic based on your interest. And it really gives you an opportunity to dive into a kind of an area of Gothic that you're really passionate about, and to spend the summer, to spend several months working with a supervisor on that particular topic. Just to give you some examples of some of the dissertations that are being done right now, we have students who are just beginning the dissertation process. For instance, yesterday I met with one of our MLitt dissertation students who's working on Cormac McCarthy's novels and the ways in which the genre of the Western really merges with the Gothic in the novels of Cormac McCarthy, and how Cormac McCarthy is really interested in that blending of genre, the ways in which the Western form and the themes of the Western kind of come together with a tradition of American Gothic, which has to do with the frontier, but also has to do with certain dark aspects of American history. That's one example.
Another instance might be one of my students who's just, again, sort of beginning to engage with the dissertation project is writing on the work of H.P. Lovecraft and the work of China Miéville, and thinking about weird fiction. He's particularly interested in the political engagements of weird fiction. If you've read a little bit of Lovecraft, you might know that his politics are, well, pretty dodgy at this point in time, whereas China Miéville has a fairly strong commitment to left politics and progressive politics, and he's interested in sort of negotiating between these really different accounts of what the weird is and what all the tentacles mean. So there's the opportunity there to go in all sorts of different directions, whether that's McCarthy or Lovecraft. We've got people working in much earlier periods as well. The nice thing about the dissertation is that if you are looking to engage in study beyond master's level, it's a fairly good preparation, I think, in terms of perhaps thinking about heading towards PhD study. And one of the things that we're particularly pleased with about the MLitt and the Gothic Imagination is that historically we've got a pretty good record of our students who are keen on sort of taking up PhD study, being able to sort of proceed to that level of study, and we've got a number of students who are present with us or recently finished their PhDs, and you know, if that's something that you're interested in, then I would hope it might be something that the MLitt and the Gothic Imagination could help you progress towards.
We've talked you through a little bit of the structure of the MLitt and the Gothic Imagination. You might be wondering about the kind of modes of assessment that you might come across in the seminars, in both the core modules and also in the option modules. And we really have quite a wide range of modes of assessment. So in terms of the work that you'll be doing, there will be the seminars that you'll be engaging in and discussing. Generally speaking, in a seminar, you would be asked to do a presentation of a topic which is related to the seminar. That presentation might be in a group, it might be in a small group of, say, 2 or 3 students, and in which you would work together to come up with a presentation on a specific topic, which would last maybe for about 15 minutes or something like that, not a very long presentation, but one which would begin the seminar and would kind of kick off discussion and provide a little bit of maybe historical and cultural context or theoretical and critical engagement with the text that you're going to be reading and working on for that particular week. That presentation will be or will form part of the assessment for that module. And then you would go on and perhaps, depending on the module, do some writing, and that might be in the very conventional form of the essay, which you'll be very familiar with, and essay topics might range from, depending on the module, about essay length, I should say, would range from about 2,500 to around 3,500 words for an essay. But the traditional essay isn't the only thing that we do on our modes of assessment on this degree scheme. We also have other forms which are a bit more innovative and depart from that traditional form of the essay. So one of the things that we do in some of our modules is to have students, instead of writing an essay, will be to write blog posts on a particular subject which is related to the seminar. Those blog posts might be about 3,000 words in all, 3 blog posts of, say, 1,000 words each. And if you visit our website called the Gothic Imagination, you can actually see some of the blogs that some of our students have done in previous years. So you can have a really good sense of the kind of work that students have done. You, of course, if you were to join the course and you were to participate in a seminar in which you write blog posts, would also have an opportunity to upload those onto the Gothic Imagination website, and particularly after you receive feedback from one of the professors or lecturers on the module.
Look, I feel like we've sort of offered a brief kind of overview of what the Gothic Imagination is about as a course, but obviously and there should be just getting posted now the website address of the blog if you haven't come across that before. But I'd be particularly interested in sort of addressing any sort of queries, what you folks need to know to be able to make an informed decision about whether the Gothic Imagination is a course that you're interested in pursuing.
It's not coming up for me, the question.
Hi James, just got your question about Gothic and horror film, and you're thinking about writing something on transformation sequences in the films. Yes, Of course, that would be appropriate. Whether that sort of is something that you'd undertake as part of your coursework during the term, whether that's a dissertation topic, all of those things, I suppose, are things that we discover sort of when we're in the thick of the course. Because there's a fair amount of flexibility in terms of the work that you produce, both for coursework and, of course, in the dissertation topic, it would really be up to you to sort of find the moment to write about transformation sequences in the films. I could see it working either way. The thing to do, of course, would be to find material that's already dealt with, this idea of Gothic transformation. It would be about finding a theoretical framework, but that seems like a really good topic potentially. So please do keep thinking about it.
Yeah, James, I would just add that one of the modules that we have offered in previous years as an option, and we plan to offer it next year as well, is actually a film and Gothic module, which is usually offered in semester 2. And so that relationship between Gothic and film is something that's really central to the kind of things that we do, both in terms of the modules, but also in relation to the dissertation, if that's something that you would want to explore in more depth in a larger piece. Film is also taught on some of the other core modules as well. For instance, in the core module, which is called Modernity in Gothic, we do a kind of mix of literature and film, and kind of think about the ways in which the modern Gothic engages with the medium of cinema, from going back to films like Metropolis and other early black and white films, right through to much more contemporary works. To answer your question, absolutely, the transformation sequences in films would be definitely appropriate, and there would be plenty of opportunity, both in the coursework that you'd be doing and also in the dissertation, to be able to explore that if that's something that you wanted to do.
Any further questions that people are interested in finding out about? Our operators are standing by, so to speak. Oh, how exciting. 2 questions at once now. Look, firstly, James is just slightly ahead there, so I'll address your second question, James. Wondering about career paths that former graduates have taken. I think there are a variety of career paths. I mean, the course, as you'd be aware, has elements that contribute towards employability within it, but I don't see it primarily as a vocational course at all. So certainly a number of our graduates have pursued PhD study. Because Stirling has a fairly sort of developed suite of potential supervisors who can sort of supervise in the Gothic, then certainly yes, there are a number of PhD students currently and formerly who have studied the Gothic at PhD level at Stirling. There's a range of different topics which have been studied, including issues of right back to sort of the Gothic of the middle and late 18th century, through to sort of more contemporary issues like the figure of the zombie, issues of Gothic interiors and film. I'm presently supervising a PhD that's very near completion on the changing role of the asylum or madhouse in Gothic literature. So certainly Stirling doesn't have a specialised PhD program per se in Gothic studies, but we frequently supervise students who are undertaking that study.
I can take the next question.
Excellent.
If you want. Yeah, a couple of you have asked what sort of preparation you should have before starting the course, and really the best preparation that you can have before you start a master's in Gothic is to really have a sense of that Gothic literary tradition. So if you haven't already done so, it would be very helpful, although not completely necessary, to have read some of the kind of classics of the Gothic canon. So if you're thinking about doing some summer reading, and you're thinking about doing this course, then you might want to think about what are the classic Gothic novels. Novels like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, for instance. I mean, that would be a great summer read. You could do that by the beach. Novels like Stevenson's Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, kind of classic of the Gothic canon. If you haven't already done so, I would certainly encourage you to read that. Even if you don't take this course, it's a great novel and it's good fun. Other novels that you might want to think about, Bram Stoker's Dracula, of course, if you haven't already done so. These kind of classics of the Gothic literary canon would give you a great kind of preparation for beginning this degree scheme, and it would lead not only to the modules which you'd be doing on literature, but it would cross over into the other things that you might do in other media, such as film or television or other forms that you might be interested in exploring.
Sage advice, I think, in terms of critical or theoretical reading. I think that's probably to a degree secondary to sort of acquainting yourself with the Gothic canon, as that's material that we introduce over the course of the core modules and optional modules. If you did want to look towards sort of just some sort of starting points, thinking critically about the Gothic, you could look to a classic like David Punter's Literature of Terror. You could look to Fred Botting's entry in the New Critical Idiom series, simply called Gothic. Both of those would be fine places to sort of start thinking more critically about the Gothic tradition and whatever it is it means. Having said that, of course, the course does publish its reading list, and students who are signed up sort of receive that. So there is the opportunity to sort of effectively bank some reading over the summer term. One of the things that any master's student notes about the master's experience is that it's a challenge to keep up with the reading. So looking at that reading list once you've got it, and sort of picking your way through some of those texts is wise, although I think it's completely possible to read as much as we ask you to in term time. That's what I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that whole issue of reading lists and things like that. If you were interested in seeing some sample reading lists from previous years, don't hesitate to email myself, Justin Edwards, or Tim, and we'd be happy to send you reading lists from previous years. The reading list for next year will probably be available in the next 6 weeks or so, I'd say.
I think so.
Not quite available yet. We're still finishing up our this term and haven't had a chance to completely think through what the reading lists are going to be for the next academic year. But they don't change too much, and the ones from previous years would give you a really good sense of the kind of things that are covered in the specifics of the modules. There is another question which has just come in, a question about whether we would consider literary arts type degrees such as, oh, no, my mistake.
Thank you everyone for attending, and as our professors have said, if you do have any further questions, feel free to send them in to study@stir.ac.uk. Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon.